Cowboy Up with Tex is back. That's right here on 1240 AM. You know, and of course we get from time to time little reports of things going on around the area. Well, right now, Abba's house over here on Hickston Pike is having a early Halloween festival. It's going on right now, and it will be going till 9:30, and it's absolutely free. You just can't get any better than that now, can you? Nice fun time with the kids, absolutely free. They've got all sorts of things over there. They've even got a bouncy house. You know, and that's just really cool that when, you know, you can do stuff like that with the kids. And, you know, we're able to do things like this where we can talk about different things going on in the area because, you know, we've got great sponsors out there like Rick Davis with Rick Davis Cash and Gold. So, you know, at Rick Davis, you can always get top dollar for your gold and silver. And he's over there at 5301 Brainerd Road. So, you know, keep him in mind. You know, you want to get a little bit of extra money? You know right where to go. Just take your cash. Take your gold and diamonds over there and get cash. How much better be than that? Well, you know, one of the actors that I kind of get a kick out of is Jon Voight. You know, he's been in all sorts of different movies like Midnight Cowboy, ironically enough. You know, he's even in a TV series right now called Ray Donovan. And he's unusual in Hollywood. Well, it's unusual in Washington too, folks. He's unusual in Hollywood because he's a staunch conservative, and he's proud of it. You know, even in Washington, we have a lot of quote conservatives there, but it seems like a lot of them are kind of ashamed of it, especially when you look at some of the ones like John Boehner and Mitch McConnell and whatnot, and even some of the ones from our own area like Lamar Alexander. But anyway, just like Washington, though, there in Hollywood, there are a lot of conservatives, and overall, they're really not welcome. Like, that's a big surprise in a big liberal town like Hollywood that a staunch conservative would not be welcome. It's a big surprise that we've come to the juncture where people with patriotic thoughts could not find a home in Hollywood. You know, back during World War II. There was a lot of patriotic people in Hollywood. Now, you know, they want everybody to, you know, stomp on the flag, say disparaging things about the country. You know, it's really gotten bad out in Hollywood, which is really funny because movies that have like Bible themes, movies that have a patriotic theme, movies that have a very definite good guy, all make lots of money. But then they turn around and they make, you know, all sorts of trashy movies that are trashing everything America stands for, and they fail at the box office, but they can't wait to make another trashy movie instead of making movies that actually make money. Well, Voight says that's because of the left's current embrace of the term of progressive, and he thinks that it actually smacks of something else. He says, I think the word progressive is a very devious term. It was created as a substitute for communist, he said. What they propose is the reverse of progress. It's something that does taste of communism and Karl Marx's pernicious philosophy. In fact, you might say that it's a new form of McCarthyism. You would think that after being persecuted, the progressives and the communists would shy away from it. But instead, it's like they're saying, well, you know, it's our turn now, and we're going to come back even worse than y'all did. I mean, I don't understand people that are like that. But, you know, it's kind of like there's this one show on HBO called The Newsroom. And on the very first episode of The Newsroom, the character in the thing named Will McAvoy said some things that are really kind of surprising to hear out of Hollywood, but in a way, when you think about it, maybe not so surprising. I'm going to read a little bit of something that was said on that very first show of HBO's The Newsroom. He says, and with a straight face, you're going to still tell students that America is so star-spangled awesome that we're the only ones in the world who have freedom. Canada has freedom. Japan has freedom. The UK, France, Italy, Germany, Spain, Australia, even Belgium have freedom. 207 sovereign nations in the world, and like 180 of them have freedom. And you, sorority girl in the audience that had asked a question, just in case you accidentally wander into the voting booth one day, there are some things that you should know. And one of them is there is absolutely no evidence to support the statement that we're the greatest country in the world. We're 7th in literacy, 27th in math, 22nd in science, 49th in life expectancy, 178th in infant mortality, 3rd in median household income, number 4 in labor force, and number 4 in exports. We lead the world in only 3 categories: number of incarcerated citizens per capita, number of adults who believe angels are real, and defense spending, where we spend more than the next 26 nations combined, 25 of whom are allies. None of this is the fault of a 20-year-old college student, but you, nonetheless, are without a doubt a member of the worst generation ever. So when you ask what makes us the greatest country in the world, I don't know what you're talking about. We sure used to be. We stood up for what was right. We fought for moral reasons. We passed laws, struck down laws for moral reasons. We waged wars on poverty, not poor people. We sacrificed. We cared about our neighbors. We put our money where our mouths were, and we never beat our chest. We built great things, made ungodly technological advances, explored the universe, cured diseases, and we cultivated the world's greatest artists and the world's greatest economy. We reached for the stars. We acted like men. We aspired to intelligence, and we didn't scare so easy. We were able to be all of these things and do all these things because we were informed by great men who were revered. The first step in solving any problem is recognizing there is one. America is not the greatest country in the world anymore. You know, and the thing to keep in mind is that this was written by progressives for what is overall a progressive show. But at the same time, what was said here was bringing some truths that maybe the progressives didn't intend to set out. He's talking in this about what America used to be and how that they did these things because Americans were informed. They were literate. They knew what was going on throughout the entire world. Why are we no longer the greatest country in the world? It's because people like the progressives have so thoroughly destroyed our education system and inundated these kids with propaganda that they don't know what's going on in the world anymore and are easily led astray because the progressives are busy trying to change what America is. So a little bit of accidental truth, I think, there on the part of some progressives. But, you know, it is kind of funny how you see all these different people that are well-known conservatives, people like Tom Selleck, and they always have to do things kind of in a really careful way, because if they make too much noise, if they stand up for their principles too much, they could be out of a job, because progressives can't stand anybody that's different from them. At the same time, they want to be people, you know, that stand up for what they believe in, but that can be so difficult. Anyway, let's see. You know, they say there was a good reason for Barack Obama to get rid of all the generals and replace them with yes men. He has been slowly weeding out career general staff officers, people that have made the Army, the Navy, the Marines, the Air Force, their lives, people who put the United States before anything else. And they've been being got rid of. Well, A lot of people have been wondering, why was he getting rid of all these people? Well, turns out he might have been arrested for treason if those guys had followed the Constitution. In fact, Congress might have been in a little bit of trouble also. You know, the U.S. Constitution is the bedrock of all American jurisprudence. Without it, there are no legal protections for human rights, and there are no laws ensuring liberty or freedom that would exist. All branches of the government require office holders to pledge oaths to upholding the U.S. Constitution. Commissioned and even non-commissioned officers, as well as even the enlisted members of the armed forces, all take oaths to defend the Constitution. They don't take oaths to follow the president. You know, during Nazi Germany, they all swore oaths of allegiance to not Germany, but to Adolf Hitler. Here in the United States, the oaths, they're swearing to defend the U.S. Constitution. In fact, constitutional oaths prohibit enacting and following unconstitutional laws and illegal orders. Constitutional oaths also prohibit oath takers from participating in or defending corruption, including covering up illegal actions by other oath takers. It's kind of hard to find anybody in Washington that could live up to that, especially the other day when you were having all these things for Hillary Clinton and Benghazi. In fact, defending the Constitution requires members of the armed forces to disobey illegal orders. And in the case of alleged treasonous acts, members of the armed forces are constitutionally bound to arrest such offenders. And here's the thing. By sending billions of dollars to provide aid and comfort to America's sworn enemy, Iran, Barack Obama and the majority of Congress are indeed guilty of treason. Treason against the United States is defined as consisting only in levying war against them or, here's the one, in adhering to the enemies, giving them aid and comfort. Now, some might try to say, well, this only applies during wartime. Well, folks, do you think Iran doesn't consider themselves against the United States in war? Every time you turn around, Iran is calling for the death of America, calling for the overthrow of our entire system of things, the Western world, but America in particular. They call Israel the little Satan. They call America the great Satan, and they want death to the great Satan. Even in the middle of all of these negotiations with Iran, the Iranians kept on saying how that, no, that's not what we agreed to. That's not what we agreed to. But Obama and his minions have bent over backwards to not only work with the Iranians, giving in to them at every single point, but hiding a lot of what they were doing because they knew it was wrong. I mean, Iran is a sworn enemy whose leaders have publicly declared its intent to destroy America, and that's why they want the atomic bomb. And they will continue building nuclear weapons. And if that doesn't fall in the constitutional definition of a treasonous act to give these people aid, comfort, and money, I don't know what would be. You know, U.S. senators and congressmen can be arrested for acts of treason, felony, and breach of peace as outlined in Article 1, Section 6 of the Constitution. It actually spells that out. Meanwhile, Article 2, Section 1, Clause 8 specifies the oath of office for the presidency, which entails, great responsibility. It says that before he entered on the execution of his office, he shall take the following oath or affirmation. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. Does anybody have any doubt that Obama's doing any of that? Meanwhile, Article 6 states that all branches of the government are bound to their oath to defend the Constitution from threats, both foreign and domestic. It reads, the senators and representatives before mentioned and the members of the several state legislatures, so even down to the state levels is what that's saying, and all executive or judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution. You know, even when the officers of the armed forces take their oath, they're swearing that they will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and they will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. Even the enlisted men have to do this. All of these oaths are sworn not to a person, and actually not even to the United States itself, but to defend the U.S. Constitution. Because the founders knew that without the Constitution, this was not the country they wanted. If the Constitution is done away with, if the Constitution is ignored by the politicians, this is not the country that they helped found. You can call it the United States of America, but is it truly America without the Constitution? The oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution provides the foundation for the balance of power created in all three branches of government. The Uniform Code of Military Justice requires members of the armed forces to only follow lawful orders and to disobey illegal orders. The crimes important enough to be identified in the Constitution, treason, felony, and breach of the peace, are important enough to be prosecuted, punished, and prevented. And right now, those are not being done. You know, I don't ask for much of our government, and they're doing way more than I like. The main thing that we ask of our government is that those who have taken their oaths of office to act on what they swore they would actually do. I mean, they knew what the job entailed when they got the job. If they're not willing to do the job, they need to either step down or be removed. It's that simple. And if they're removed, they need to be prosecuted. And right now, that's not being done on either side. Meanwhile, the American soldiers who are in there trying to protect this country, trying to uphold the American ideal throughout the world, are being punished by this government for blowing the whistle on the systematic rape and enslavement of young boys at the hands of brutal Afghan Muslim military officials. There again, honorable men in uniform risk their careers and lives to stop this abuse. Yet the White House is AWOL on the actual pedophilia epidemic known as bachabazi. The Obama administration flags went out of their way to downplay Afghan child rape as abhorrent, but fundamentally a local law enforcement matter. This is the price that is paid for blind multiculturalism. A New York Times report on the Afghan Muslim practice, and it's not one or two people, it is rampant over there, rampant. And not just in Afghanistan, but throughout the Muslim world for not only young girls, but even young boys to be brutally raped by Muslim men. And this is known on Capitol Hill. But the Defense Department brass have insisted that our troops were not ordered to look the other way while the subjugation and sexual assault of these children grows. An Afghani journalist made a wrenching documentary on the Dancing Boys of Afghanistan, which was aired in London and the U.S. in 2010. And the United Nations has known and done nothing as Taliban warlords and Afghan police groomed, sodomized, and even sexually trafficked generations of young boys, while the State Department, even under Hillary Clinton, acknowledged that there were reports of security officials and those connected with the Afghan National Police who were raping children with impunity. Well, one particular military man, Major Jason Bresler, is fighting for his reputation in his military career after warning colleagues of an insider attack on an American base in the Helmand province. He had sent a classified document through his personal email. Personal email? Why, isn't that what Hillary used? To warn fellow Marines at a forward operating base that they were about to be attacked. The correspondence also included the shady history of a Taliban-tied Afghan police chief and accused drug lord and child molester, Sawar Jan. He'd been suspected of being an undercover Taliban operative, selling police uniforms to our enemies, and had also raped at least 9 young boys on the American base. Meanwhile, Bresler is forced to watch Hillary Clinton get away with massive email security violations that put people's lives in danger and caused the deaths of at least 4, while he's fighting for his career for when he did 1 through his personal email account, which was the only way he had to warn fellow military people of an impending attack. You know, the White House splashed social media with the pleas to bring back our girls after Boko Haram in Nigeria kidnapped 300 girls, but they have nothing to say about the legions of boys forced into prostitution and being witnessed by U.S. troops, except telling the troops to shut up and look the other way. Is that what we want in our officials? Is that spreading the American ideal throughout the world? There again, obey the law and do what's right. It's that simple. It's time for our government to cowboy up. We'll be back in a few minutes after these commercial words.
Minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Fox News Talk 1240.
Expect mostly cloudy skies to continue through the nighttime. Can't rule out a spotty shower passing through, lows into the mid-50s. For Thursday, though, finally drying out for a while with partly cloudy skies. Pleasant highs 70 to 73. More sunshine on Friday, highs dropping into the 60s. Glass Farm Nursery, the largest pansy supplier around, has a huge selection of pansies and violas, still only $12.99 a flat, as well as small and large mums at Glass Farm, Highway 11, 4 miles south of Trenton. And I'm SOAR Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Core.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Costa, host of the Costa Report, every Sunday at 9 a.m. This week, we take a step back from politics, business, and global events to speak with well-being expert Deepak Chopra. We've all had the experience of feeling invisible at a party, at work, or at home. Join us as we discover what to do when we feel invisible this Sunday at 9 a.m. on the Costa Report, right here on AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
Tired of insurance companies? Tired of doctors that won't spend time with you? Do something different. Leave the sick care model of medicine and come to Dr. Danielle Mitchell, the Chattanooga Sports Institute and Center for Health, where we're interested in long-term health solutions, not the quick fixes. Come see me, Dr. Danielle Mitchell, at the Chattanooga Sports Institute and Center for Health. I'm all about the long-term healthcare solutions and doing what's best. On the web, you can find me at ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. That's ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. Or call us at 875-1005, 875-1005, or find us on social media, Facebook, Dr. Danielle Mitchell, or the ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. Let's go, ya!
We've got a table here at Delia's and Saudi Daisy, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican food. Delia's spreads a rich selection: loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, maybe the enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork, quesadillas. Every dish beautifully pictured on the menu to help us decide. Join us for lunch or dinner. We're at Delia's and Saudi Daisy on Dayton Pike near the Thrasher Light. Here's dinner. Delia's uses the freshest ingredients, cooked to perfection. Nachos, homemade. Delia's open every day except the Lord's Day. For lunch and dinner, treat yourself to Delia's genuine Mexican food. In Saudi, call 521-7145. That's 521-7145.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Fox News Talk 1240.
News Talk Radio is back right here at 12:40 a.m. You know, you can get us so many different ways. You've got Hot News Talk Radio, the radio station. You've got hotnewstalkradio.com. You've even got Hot News Talk Radio on YouTube and Twitter. And if you're out and about, not right by a computer, you can always get the TuneIn app and actually get us on your smartphone. Guess where? At Hot News Talk Radio. And of course, if you're by a computer, you can always watch us on hotnewstalkradio.com on our Hot News Cam and actually watch us during our shows. Well, meanwhile, you know, just there again to remind everybody, over at Abba's house right now, over here at Hickson Pike, just off of 153, they are having an early Halloween program over there that will be going on till 9:30 this evening. It's absolutely free. It's fun for the whole family. And they've got all sorts of things going on over there, even a bouncy house. And again, things like this can be brought to you by Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds, where you can get top dollar for your gold and silver from Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds over at 5301 Brainerd Road. So, in fact, Rick will personally appraise your items and give you cash while you wait. Well, let's see. You know, we were talking a little earlier about mainstream media and President Obama. You know, the mainstream media has done everything it can to portray Obama as a strong, great president. You know, and you keep listening to them talk about Putin over in Russia and how they keep saying that, well, in their opinion and in Obama's opinion, that Putin is acting out of weakness in attacking over in the Ukraine, attacking over in Syria right now, and all these different things that he's been doing, and how, he just can't keep it up. He can't keep doing that. He's going to run out of money. He's going to run out of people. Why, he's teetering on the edge of disaster. Well, meanwhile, of course, what's been going on during this government-sponsored disinformation campaign? That's a great way of saying propaganda. Well, of course, Putin has openly shown his lack of respect and contempt for Obama, practically daring Obama to act. You know, and this is something that until I read this, I did not know. I've heard so many different things about Putin that, frankly, this kind of shocked me. Did you know that Putin, the leader of Russia, is a Christian? In fact, in a January 2012 meeting with the Russian Orthodox Church, he promised that he would protect Christians from the slaughter and repression that they are suffering in the Middle East. At that meeting, the Russian Orthodox Church described Russia's fight against the Islamic State and other jihadi groups in Syria and the Middle East as a holy war. Whereas, of course, Obama keeps talking about how it's basically kind of like just a little police action, how we need to just arrest them and show them how great we are, and they'll just all turn around and go home. Meanwhile, hundreds and thousands of Christians in the Middle East are being slaughtered. They're not fighting. They're being captured and then slaughtered. And the only country in the world right now that is really, really fighting that war is Russia. You know, did you notice how ever since Russia has actually sent men in there and has actually been kicking some butt over in the Middle East, now all of a sudden Obama's having to kind of ramp things up. All of a sudden Obama's talking about putting boots back on the ground over there because he's been shown up. He's been shown for the coward and the traitor that he actually is. The Russian Federation has made a responsible decision on the use of armed forces to defend the people of Syria from the arbitrariness of terrorists. Christians are suffering in the region with the kidnapping of clerics and the destruction of churches, while our government has sat by and done nothing other than bring thousands of Muslims to our own country, importing the enemy here. You read about these different tribes of Christians over in Syria and in Iraq that are being decimated, pleading to be helped. And they can't give them the time of day here in the United States while Russia goes to their aid. You know, I think almost everybody's seen the pictures of Putin shirtless riding a horse. You know, he goes without his shirt a lot, it seems, you know, trying to show what manly man he is. And, you know, I thought that was kind of funny. And, you know, when you're reading the propaganda put out by the left stream media and even the U.S. government, you know, you kind of, yeah, look at that. That's so funny. But if you look at the pictures really close, the one thing that you don't notice is that he's wearing a gold chain around his neck that has a cross on it, proudly displayed for everyone to see. You know that when he's doing those pictures, they know exactly what he wants them to see. You think those pictures would be getting out if he didn't want people to see the cross around his neck? And he proclaims his Christianity. He's been an outspoken critic of the moral decay of American society, not so much America itself as much as American society and the American government. He has vowed to protect Russia from the anti-Christian liberalism which he sees that has destroyed American society. You know, and all of this is completely contrary to what I had always been hearing. And, you know, and when you really start looking at it, when you go to European news sites that are not Russian and not American, you start seeing some of this stuff that's being reported by other nations that are not affiliated with Russia. It kind of makes you start going, hey, wait a minute, what's going on here? What's the real truth? In fact, it was reported that in a 2014 speech, Putin said, another serious challenge to Russia's identity is linked to events taking place in the world. Here, there are both foreign policy and moral aspects. We can see how many of the Euro-Atlantic countries are actually rejecting their roots including the Christian values that constitute the basis of Western civilization. They are denying moral principles and all traditional identities, national, cultural, religious, and even sexual. They are implementing policies that equate large families with same-sex relationships, belief in God with the belief in Satan. This is Putin saying this. The excesses of political correctness have reached the point where people are seriously talking about registering political parties whose aim is to promote pedophilia. People in many European countries are embarrassed or afraid to talk about their religious affiliations. Holidays are abolished or even called something different. Their essence is hidden away, as is their moral foundation. And people are aggressively trying to export this model all over the world. I am convinced that this opens a direct path to degradation and primitivism, resulting in a profound demographic and moral crisis. How come we never heard this here in America? Well, because the mainstream media and a lot of the people in charge are the very ones promoting what he's talking about. Conservative Christian Americans are angry at Obama, who they believe does nothing to protect their faith, in fact, degrades our faith, while Putin has already made Obama look like a meek, pitiful soul on the world stage. Putin is actually willing to fight Islamists who murder and massacre Christians by the thousands, and at the same time, he proves that he cares more about protecting Muslims than Christians, something Obama cannot say. Meanwhile, remarks made by Pope Francis when he visited St. Patrick's Cathedral in Manhattan have sparked a firestorm of criticism from those that have taken the Pope's remarks as a major step in the direction of a one-world religion. And the truth is that the Pope has made other such statements in the past. In fact, some religious leaders have even gone so far as to try to merge Islamic and Christian practices, and they've coined a new term for this one-world religion, Chrislam, because they're trying to say that both Christianity and Islam both are just different aspects of the Bible, and that the book of Islam is just an offshoot of the New Testament. I mean, when you listen to the Muslims, they talk about how that Jesus was a prophet, just not the prophet, that the prophet was Muhammad. And they're falling right into this with Pope Francis, this new movement. Pope Francis said in the cathedral has received very little coverage by the mainstream media, but is extremely significant. He started his address by saying, "I would like to express two sentiments for my Muslim brothers and sisters." Muslim brothers and sisters. These are the people that are killing Christians, supposedly Pope Francis's flock, left and right, in not just the Middle East, but even in other countries around the world. You know, areas like Indonesia, the Philippines, where Muslims kill Christians. Yeah. Two sentiments for my Muslim brothers and sisters. First, my greetings as they celebrate the Feast of Sacrifice. I wished my greeting could have been warmer. My sentiments of closeness. He says, in this moment, I give assurances in my prayers that I will unite myself with you all. A prayer to Almighty God, all merciful. Now, it's kind of interesting the way he chose those particular words, all merciful. In Islam, Allah is known as the all-merciful one. So by saying a prayer to Almighty God, all-merciful, he's using an Islamic phrase. And this is not the first time that Pope Francis has used such language. In fact, he has authorized Islamic prayers and readings from the Quran at the Vatican itself. since 2014. Catholicism and Islam are the two largest religions on the entire planet. And so any one world religion would need to incorporate both of those belief systems. It seems this Pope is quite eager to lay the groundwork for such a one world religion. I mean, and when you look at the history of the Catholic Church in general, that has always been true. I mean, whenever they would take over other religions throughout history, little elements of that religion would make its way into what became Catholicism. Over in South America right now, they have their different, like, Day of the Dead that's been incorporated as a Catholic festival. Well, that's from the death worship of the different Indian religions that were in place at the time that the conquistadors went over. You've got, I mean, and a lot of people don't know this, but the actual origins of Christmas was during Roman times, the Feast of Saturnalia. You can look that up in the encyclopedias. Encyclopedia Britannica will tell you exactly where we get a lot of the different aspects of Christmas, such as giving of presents, Christmas trees, the Yule log, all sorts of things that come not from celebrating the birth of Jesus, but from incorporating the Feast of Saturnalia. The people were happy to change the name of the celebration to whatever you wanted, as long as you let them keep doing what they wanted to do. And so Christianity was warped into what Catholicism is today. At that point, Catholicism is now being warped by consolidating it with Islam to, like I said, where they're calling it Chrislam. Meanwhile, the Pope also seems to think that the cross was a failure. You know, we're talking about the followers of Jesus, and his life had ended in failure, the failure of the cross. This is what he said, that Jesus' life ended in failure. It's impossible for a Christian of any denomination to imagine the very essence of their faith being discussed in this way, let alone by the Pope himself. The fact that blood was shed on the cross by Jesus for the ultimate self-sacrifice that could help rid mankind of sin is one of the essentials of the faith of Christianity that has never been questioned until this particular Pope. But even the Pope is saying things like this, his legend just seems to grow day by day. Oh, you know, people are fainting when he shows up. Oh, you know, even in Congress, the congressmen were doing disgraceful things just to be able to be near him. Representative Bob Brady, a devout Catholic and Democrat from Pennsylvania, elbowed his way to the podium after Pope Francis finished speaking and grabbed a glass of water that was sitting there that the Pope had drank out of. He then drank some of the water himself, gave more of the water to his wife, Deborah, and saved the rest for his grandchildren while aggressively elbowing other people away from it. You know, this is quite concerning. Really concerns me, because we're witnessing the initial stages of the rise of a one world religion that is ultimately going to be pretty much worldwide, and that people are going to be forced to embrace. The question you have to ask is, what part of Christianity will be tossed and which part of Islam will take its place? Muslims already proclaim that if you don't join, they will kill you. So in this new Chrislam, instead of turning the other cheek, instead of praying for your enemy, are you now going to have to kill your enemy to be part of the new Chrislam? Things to think about, people. This world is changing in ways that people can't even begin to imagine. Our country is going down the tubes faster than anybody realizes, and hardly anybody says anything about it. That's the main thing I do at this station, is try to bring information to my listeners to let them know just how bad things are getting, especially if we don't stand up and do something about it, say something about it. Like I was saying a while ago, this country used to be informed. This was the best nation in the world when we were informed. But the media is hiding stuff from us now. They're deciding what we should know and what we should not know. And folks, they're deciding we should know way more than what we do know. And that's what ultimately is going to destroy this nation. It's been famously said that this nation would be destroyed from within before it would be destroyed from without. And we see that happening more and more every day because it's our own people that are hiding things from us. It's our own government that is bringing our enemies into our country as a fifth column. It's our own government that is spending us into oblivion. You can't be a great country at the bankruptcy court. And you know, the funny part about this whole thing is that this is exactly what the communists said to do to bring down America. When you look at some of the things that different communist officials have said about how to destroy America, this is following it step by step, and people are letting it happen. I mean, you talk about immigration. They say that next year there are going to be more illegal aliens in this country than several states' entire populations added together. When Americans are no longer the dominant people in America, it will no longer be America. When the Constitution is not even taught in school, how can students know when their rights are being violated? I mean, the president of Mexico recently said that they would supply documents so that millions of illegal Mexican immigrants could stay in the United States. Do we actually know that these documents are truthful? Or are they just printing up something to allow our nation to be invaded? I mean, we're under invasion from two different directions right now. We have hundreds of thousands of people coming across our border in the south. And meanwhile, our government is bringing in hundreds of thousands of people from people sworn to be our enemies. And when we say something about it, we're accused of being not with it. We're you know, oh, well, you just don't like Mexicans. You want to see these people die. You'd rather them die out in the desert. No, but I just think that our American citizens that are hungry should get food before people of other nations, especially our enemies. I think that people without jobs in America should get American jobs before they're given to people of other countries. I think that American veterans should be getting medical attention before people in other countries. We cannot save the world when we can't even save ourselves. And at the rate things are going, we're not going to be ourselves for much longer because America will cease to exist. How can we continue to exist when we're being overwhelmed and undermined? You read where people trying to put the flag out in front of their houses are condemned by their neighbors from their homeowners associations and fined money for putting a flag on their front porch. Kids at school are being told that if they're Christians, they're ignorant. School systems are teaching kids to be Muslim, but they're not allowed to say the word Christmas. Is this the America you want to be in? Are you just going to let it happen? Or are you going to cowboy up, call your representatives, and tell them to do the job they were elected to do, or they'll be sent packing one way or the other? This has been Cowboy Up with Tex. We're going to have a special show tomorrow, so listen in. We'll see you then.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News.